motivation is something that you're born with. And this is not necessarily the case. So when we look at what does it mean to be motivated or what does it mean to have motivation, motivation is the desire to achieve a goal. All right. And if we just start there, having that desire to achieve that goal is going to take us many places. It's going to create many opportunities. It's going to lead us towards challenges. It'll help us through challenges and through different adversities. But it starts out with motivation just being that piece of the desire to pursue a goal that we've set. Hi, I'm Dr. J, and welcome to 5 Minute Friday. I have a background of a master's in human performance / applied sports science and a doctorate in sport and performance psychology. This week, our 5 Minute Friday is going to cover motivation and the reasoning behind why we do what we do.
Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more 5 Minute Fridays with your Dr. J.
So sometimes when we think about motivation, a lot of expectations or potentially assumptions that we have is that motivation is something that you're born with. And this is not necessarily the case. So when we look at what does it mean to be motivated or what does it mean to have motivation, motivation is the desire to achieve a goal. All right. And if we just start there, having that desire to achieve that goal is going to take us many places. It's going to create many opportunities. It's going to lead us towards challenges. It'll help us through challenges and through different adversities. But it starts out with motivation just being that piece of the desire to pursue a goal that we've set. And so a lot of times when we talk about highly motivated individuals, we think about people that are training hard. We think about people that compete with success or compete with heart. And that takes them many places as far as them being able to complete a game and refuse to give up in the face of adversity. So they're seeing things from start to finish and they're not wavering in their intensity or their pursuit of those things. So that takes us to a further piece, right? Where really, how is motivation approached? How is motivation pieced together? And motivation is really identified throughout 3 different behaviors. All right. And those behaviors would include choice, effort, and persistence. And so if we start with the first one, when we're looking at choice is the piece that we get to decide if we want to take on this task, if we want to take on this challenge, if we want to take on this sport, right? And when we're looking at it in athletic context, right? And then effort is how much or how hard am I willing to work to achieve this result, to achieve this goal, to meet this standard, to meet this quota. And then persistence is, will I continue even if this activity or this sport or this skill becomes harder throughout the pursuit of it, throughout the learning of it and the growing within it than it did at the beginning. So as we advance in our skills, as we level up in our own experiences, our lives continue to level up, right? And if our challenges aren't continuing to increase and grow around us, we might find ourselves in a stagnant situation, right? And so this motivational piece, this perspective, this choice, right? This effort and this persistence is going to create more opportunities for us. And with those more opportunities, we're going to find ourselves in situations where we will have to fight with that perseverance and we will have to overcome things that are nuanced or are new to us. If we think about motivation as being situational or environmentally driven from the aspect of our motivation on a given day, on a given context or a given opportunity can change, frees us from the assumption that some people have this motivation and some people don't, right? But the piece that is important is knowing whether or not we are intrinsically or extrinsically motivated for that certain activity or for that certain goal, right? And so intrinsic motivation would be the individuals who find joy in the pursuit of that goal, or they're playing for what's called the love of the game. They just genuinely enjoy that experience. And for them, the experience is the reward. And so they're searching to become more skilled, but that's for them to be able to utilize that skill actively as they're playing the game. It's different than if we're seeking outcomes, which would be the score at the end of the game or always winning, right? And for some people, understanding that the wins and the losses that occur within a season or within a competitive streak shape our ability, but also cause us to confront those things and to recognize where our motivation is coming from, or if we are willing to change and to grow in those capacities. So as we look at the flip of that, extrinsic motivation would be we are seeking that goal or we're seeking that outcome for recognition, for an award or a reward, right? That could be paid depending on what level of competition you're at or what type of sport you play. That could be a Hall of Fame honor, a record that you're pursuing, right? Most points scored in a single season or most stats that are given within your sport, right? That could be an extrinsic source of motivation. And the difference between those two is how we approach the situation, but then also what is our motivation for continuing when we do face that adversity? And something that is hard but true is we are going to face that adversity. So how do we continue to move past that? So then as we're thinking about these differences between the intrinsic motivators and the extrinsic motivators, that builds us into three camps. On the intrinsic motivation side of that camp would be mastery orientation, right? And this means that we're pursuing an improvement in skill, and we're working to learn those basics and really hone those practice pieces, hone those drills, and hone the opportunities that come with it so that we can play the sport better and we can continue to enjoy the sport more. Whereas those that might be more on the extrinsic side of motivation might find themselves in a success seeker camp or a failure avoider camp, right? And those are very different sides of the same coin in that aspect, right? And so if you're on the side of looking for success, your effort in that equation of the three components of motivation, your effort might be just enough to guarantee the win. It might be just enough to get that accolade. It might be just enough to look that you are successful regardless of whether or not your team succeed. Whereas someone who is mastery oriented, if you're playing a team sport, they might be more concerned that everyone within their team is getting certain opportunities, or they're creating and facilitating opportunities for their team to be successful, right? These are the things that we practice. These are the things that we worked on. And that mastery oriented person is going to be looking for those growth opportunities or looking to execute those things. And that's not saying that neither side, the intrinsic or the extrinsic motivated individuals, are not competitive, but how we internalize the end result of competition, how we internalize the practice, the pieces, the games, the championships that all make this big athletic picture do matter. And so then that third category of being a failure avoider, you might choose to remove yourself from some situations just based on the fact that you're afraid to fail, or it might be highly challenging and you don't trust your skill enough to try that. And these are very small examples of how this can look. But when you're approaching a task or you're approaching practice, really think to yourself, am I taking a mastery oriented perspective? Am I only seeking success? And am I going to only do enough just to get success, whatever that small piece is? Or are you looking to avoid failure in those situations that you're walking into, in that environment that you're walking into? And regardless of whether or not you build yourself or you grow past those adversities, if you're avoiding failure, you might be more ego motivated in the fact that you want to make sure that you look okay at the end of it and no one remembers you faltering. But that's where some of the biggest growth happens, right? So even when we are prepared and we do everything that we can for these situations, sometimes a failure might occur, but it's only a failure when we stop moving forward, right? How many teams have lost? How many of the legends, the greats, the people that we give all these recognition to, how many of them failed in so many different capacities? How many of them had to seek motivation in different aspects at different times throughout their life, right? Sometimes they were intrinsically motivated. Sometimes they were extrinsically motivated. No matter how much good you want to do for others, at the end of the day, you still got to eat, right? And so sometimes you do need money, which would be an external factor that you would be motivated to make, right? We go to our jobs for extrinsic motivation. It might not be our favorite thing, but it does create a means for us to do the things that we do enjoy. So then those activities that you might be intrinsically motivated for, you've got the time, the means, and the resources to do. So then as we're thinking deeper about all these themes that go into our motivation, from our choice, from our effort, and from our persistence, my biggest encouragement for you this week is to take a second and see what environments are most motivating for you as an individual and what areas of your life that those pertain to. You might have different motivations for different areas of life, and that's okay. You might be motivated similarly in all of your pursuits in life, and that's okay. But then the question is, how do we improve? How do we set better goals? How do we set realistic goals, but also challenging goals for those things to keep us motivated? And so take a second with yourself this week as you look through those themes within your own life. And I hope you guys stay motivated and continue to find things to do for the love of the game. And if you are looking for extrinsic motivators or external reward, that you are successful in the pursuit of those and you're persistent in the face of adversity as you continue to grow. Please join us again in 2 weeks as we go over our next sport and performance theme. Once again, I'm Dr. J, and as always, be refined by the grind.